Going live. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session of Explore by the Seat of Your Pants. I'm Sarah Privado, so I will be your host for today. And if you don't know what Explore by the Seat of Your Pants does, our overall goal is to bring science, conservation, and adventure to the world. And today we are hanging out at Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. I know we have a couple people from the States joining us, so you guys might not be familiar, but those from Canada probably have checked them out at least once before. So we're getting a first-hand look at the Great Lakes exhibit, and we're going to be checking out feeding time with some paddlefish. So we have Sarah joining us today to give us a tour. And so she's been working for 3 years at the education department and working in environmental education. And she has a huge passion for the marine environment. So I just want to give everybody a chance to say hello. So I will start with Miss Zadrozny's class. If you guys want to give a shout and say hello to everybody today.
That's right.
Okay, awesome. I'm just going to mute your mic again. And then Miss Venaga's class. Awesome. Just going to mute you guys again. And then we have Miss Blackie's class here. Hello. And then we have
You can talk, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about
Miss Novak's class coming in from Fishers in the United States. So let me just unmute your mics, and you guys can give us a shout. Awesome. And then we have Miss Ballard's class that has just come in. If you guys want to say hey. Hello. Awesome. Okay, and then I think we're just working with Mr. Veli's class. I don't know if you guys want to give us a shout if you have worked some things out here. They're still working on some tech issues. So we'll just get started with the overall hangout then. So as a reminder for everyone here and those who will be joining during the live feed, there is a question and answer option in the blue chat bar on the top left. So you can send questions here anytime. So I would just like to Sarah, and then we can get started today.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad to hear so many excited voices this morning. So again, my name is Sarah as well, and I'm one of the educators here at Ripley's Aquarium. And right now, I'm standing in the back areas. So these are the areas that you don't generally get to see, and I'm going to flip see where I'm standing right now. I'm just standing in front of our beautiful circular tank, and it's got all of our alewives. And these are a type of fish that usually live in salt water. So I'm going to slowly move out and show you a bit of the back areas too. You can see there's a lot of plumbing involved back here. We've got lots of water. And we've got some tanks too. So if any animals are sick or injured or pregnant or new to the aquarium, we have places to bring them in. And then I'm just kind of panning through to show you some of the back areas where we've got some people working, getting ready to make sure the day and all the animals are fed and healthy. We've got a tank down here, but we are going to be with this amazing gentleman who's got this like stoic pose right now. That's Eric. He is one of our aquarists here at the aquarium. So these are the people that take care of the animals. And we have about 20 aquarists that work with us. So they each have about 3 or 4 tanks that they take care of. And Eric gets to take care of this beautiful tank. This is our Great Lakes tank. All beautiful fish that you would see in the Great Lakes. Let's see if we can focus in on here. Got lots of different types of fish in here. And we just turned off the flow to the water so you guys can get a better view of what's going on. Oh, there we go. And that's the star of the show right there. That's the paddlefish. So we've got many Great Lakes fish. We've got some brook trout. We've got some pike. We've got some sturgeon, which tend to be my favorite. But we're going to look at the paddlefish right here. And of course, it is feeding time. So let's find out from Eric. Eric, what is breakfast for a paddlefish?
Yeah, so if you want to follow me just down along here, I want to focus in on this little bucket right there. So that's a form of krill. Called pacifica krill. Let me just stir it up a little bit.
Oh, lovely.
So, it's a relatively small, basically it's a small kind of shrimp. It's about a centimeter, to 2 centimeters in length. And yeah, the paddlefish are filter feeders. So if you notice that, when I start feeding them, all of a sudden their mouths just drop open. And basically all they do is just swim throughout the water and catch anything that ends up going into their mouth.
Oh, delicious. All right. So these guys are little plankton, essentially, but not like the plankton from SpongeBob. This is kind of like a different type of animal that lives in the water. Beautiful. All right. So let's do it. So can I ask, what is your feeding tool here?
This incredibly awesome, sophisticated feeding apparatus is a giant spoon attached to the end of a pipe.
That's what I thought. All right. Okay. So let's see it in action, because I'm kind of curious. Let me pan back a little bit so you can see Eric's technique here. Give him a little bit of a critique here. Oh. Ooh.
So you can notice the smaller paddlefish too, swimming around with their mouths open.
So Eric was just saying these guys just cruise through the water and they open up their wide mouths and just filter feed whatever they find in the water, which in this case is all this little krill. And they have something called gill rakers that essentially look like feathers, and they just pick off the plankton as they take in these mouthfuls of water. And right now it looks like they're extremely excited for this.
So part of working with this tank is also, not only are we trying to feed the tank, but we're also observing too. So we're observing behaviors that during this particular feed, we may have some other fish who are also hungry just as equally. So we also want to make sure that when it comes to feeding them, that they get enough food too. Because sometimes we can actually get a little competitive in here and start bumping each other around for the food.
Oh, there's competition everywhere. So you can see a lot of the other animals are coming up because they're curious as well. Now, if you notice, the paddlefish gets its name because of that long nose. And you may have gotten a good view of that long nose as they came by. We don't actually call it a nose, we call it a rostrum. Unique appendage. Use it to sense where electrical impulses in the water, so they can sense where these little tiny animals are.
Sarah, we might be having a little bit of a tech issue right now connecting. Maybe you had just lost wireless connection there. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, Sarah, we're still having some issues seeing you. Because I know she's on an iPad, so that might be a bit of an issue here. So sometimes when we're dealing with technology and going into really cool places like in an aquarium where there's a bunch of cement around, we're going to be having some issues with tech. So we're just waiting for Sarah to join back in a little bit. Okay, awesome. So it looks like we got Mark all taken care of. Sarah, can you hear us?
We got you again?
Yes, we lost connection for a little bit, but we should.
Perfect.
It's all good now. Awesome.
Excellent. Okay. I think I lost a bit of my Wi-Fi there.
Yeah, probably.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear me now? Is it okay? Perfect. All right. There we go. So we're just saying this tank is a pretty chilly one, about 13 degrees as well. And how much water is in this tank? Ooh.
Let's think about 100,000 liters.
100,000 liters. So this is a big tank. So we've got lots of other fish in here. There we go. You get a really good view of these guys. Now, strangely enough, when people first discovered paddlefish, they thought they were closely related to sharks. So let's see if this one will come by so you can get a good look at him. And the reason they thought they were a shark is because of the tail. The tail looks very similar to other sharks. It's asymmetrical compared to other fish that usually have a symmetrical tail. And the other reason was their entire bodies are made of cartilage. So unlike us who are made out of a heavy bone, these types of animals and sharks all have a skeleton made out of cartilage. So it's extremely flexible. It's really easy for these guys to control their buoyancy because it is such a light material. So these guys were first thought to be sharks and are now known as fish that just have a cartilaginous skeleton. They're also a very old species. This species has been around in the fossil record for a long time. I'm gonna see how long, do you know how long they've been in the record, Eric?
I don't know off the top of my head.
It's at least since the dinosaurs, since the Cretaceous period, they have found fossil record. So they're known as a primitive fish because apparently they haven't changed too much since they first evolved. So whatever they've got is working for them pretty well. Very cool. We'll see if he'll come back around. It's the same guy. I can see him. He's just kind of coming back around. He's loving this attention. He's the good one.
Yeah, he's
so
the good one. The small ones are a little bit, they take a little while.
How many paddlefish do you have in the tank?
I have 4 in here.
4 paddlefish in the tank. Now, the sad thing about paddlefish is even though we have them in our Great Lakes tank, you can no longer find paddlefish in our Great Lakes. And the big problem has to do for a couple of reasons. They were overfished for sport fishing, and their populations essentially were decimated because of it. So now you can only find this particular type of fish river basin. And so the only place you can see these guys are in the States. There's no more in their northern range. So no more in Canada, unfortunately. But they are amazing. And unfortunately, that population in the Mississippi isn't doing too well either. Apparently, not only are they being overfished, but a lot of their habitat where they like to live is being destroyed or taken away for another reason. And a big part has to do with what we're doing to live, block their river systems where they like to spawn, where they like to reproduce. So they're not able to reach their spawning grounds and end up reducing their populations that way. Another big problem we've just come across is pollution in the water. Because if you notice how these guys are swimming around, how they're eating, they just take in big gulpfuls of water and they can't really see what it is that they're taking in. So sometimes there's enough pollution, enough garbage in the water, they're also swallowing that. And that's causing a lot of damage to them. And we're noticing that a lot of dying off because of that. So there's lots of things we can do to help out these animals, especially since they're not the only ones affected by all these different factors. A good thing to think about is where your garbage is going, making sure that you're recycling your garbage. It's not ending up in a dump, which is just going back into the rivers. Participate in different sorts of shoreline cleanups. In Canada, we have one known as the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup, which is a great thing to participate in because you can go out to your local rivers and lakes and you can pick up garbage around, sure that our rivers and lakes stay healthy and hopefully help out some of these animals here too.
Sarah, it looks like we might have lost connection again. You want to just try maybe moving a little bit and then we can see if the Wi-Fi will come back up? So cool to see all these paddlefish swimming around with their big rostrils. So we're just going to be waiting for Sarah to come back in.
There we go. You see that image?
But I don't believe we have any video going.
Ah, there? How about now?
Waiting a little bit more. We can only have audio. Okay, we're getting video again.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Sarah, it looks like we're about to move to Q&A, so I'm going to go to some of the classrooms and see if they have any questions going on. So I'm just going to unmute Miss Zadrozny's mic, and then you guys can come forward and ask a question for Sarah today.
Does anyone have a question? Raise your hand if you have. Okay. Zoe, if you want to stand up and ask a question.
What type of food do you feed the other fish in that tank? What type of food do you feed the other fish in that tank?
Sarah, did you get that question?
Like everyone's for Sarah.
Sarah, did you hear that question all right?
I think you lost her.
We might have got a little bit of an issue there with her. Okay, we'll just wait for Sarah to try to come back in again. Everything's looking fine on my end. She might just need
There we go.
There you are, Sarah. Did you hear that last question from Mr. Drozny's class?
I missed that question.
Okay, we'll just have them ask it again. So if you guys want to ask that question one more time, Sarah's here to listen to you.
What type of food do you feed the other fish in the tank?
Ooh, that's a great question. So Eric, what type of food do you feed the other fish in the tank?
Yeah, so, transferring the earpiece. All right, so the other type of food that we'll feed our other inhabitants, today they're actually getting lake smelt and clam tongue. So we kind of base a lot of our diets off of the nutritional aspect and also comparing that with the overall appearance and observations we make about our animals themselves. So in my particular case, these animals are getting a little pudgy. They're a little bit fat. So we're going for the slightly leaner diets. So that hence why the clam tongue is the majority of the food I'll feed. But then, you know, I'll throw in a little bit of the slightly fattier food like the lake smelt. We'll also feed squid. We'll also feed capelin. You saw the krill I was feeding. There's also mysis shrimp that I'll feed. But, you know, like most, they'll actually kind of get used to certain foods, and I'm pretty picky. So, you know, I mean, much probably like you guys, if you had your favorite food, you know, fed to you every so often, you know, you probably want to just keep eating that and probably skip on like the healthier stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much what these guys get fed.
Awesome. Great question. Okay, I'm just going to move to, we have Miss Blackie's class here. I'm just going to unmute your mic and have somebody come up and ask a question for Sarah. And let me just unmute you, and you should be good to go.
Do they have any predators?
Good question.
Good question. Do they have any predators?
Which ones?
The paddlefish.
Oh, the paddlefish?
Yeah.
I mean, probably mostly as juveniles. You know, I think that's probably when they're probably most susceptible. I am actually relatively new to this tank, so I'm still learning a lot about these guys. That's a very good question. But what I can tell you is, as juveniles, it's really any much of the larger fish. So, I mean, if they were still in the Great Lakes, you have this guy right there. That's our northern pike. Yeah, if the camera gets in focus. Yeah, he's currently staring up at us right now because he's actually fully aware of feeding time. But the northern pikes actually in this tank have, as far as their history goes, yeah, so I would probably categorize them as probably the predators if, out.
So it looks like Sarah might just be cutting out a bit again. But while we're waiting, Mark, does your class have a question that you guys want to ask through the chat bar at all? I don't know if you can hear me all right. So we'll just wait for Sarah to come back and connect. And we're just going to go around and ask each classroom a question. So everybody will get a chance. We just have to wait for Sarah to come back in. And I will go down and have each classroom take a turn to Jen. Okay, so it looks like we have a question from Mark's class, Mr. Veli's class from Kitchener. And we will just wait for Sarah to tune back in, and then we can ask that question.
You can imagine all these pipes just make a little havoc on our Wi-Fi here.
Yes,
All right.
I can imagine. Well, there was a classroom, they're having some tech issues, so they weren't able to actually ask it, but they wanted to know, Addison wanted to know what foods the paddlefish eat.
Can you repeat the question?
Addison from Kitchener would like to know what food the paddlefish actually eat.
What foods do the paddlefish like to eat?
Yes.
So, given that they are, given that their means of feeding is literally just to swim around the water and drop their mouths open, it's anything that's floating in the water. So, in this particular case, what we feed them here, we feed them a lot of relatively small foods. We predominantly feed them our krill or mysis. We've actually fed them live adult brine shrimp before, and they actually go pretty crazy for live food. But some of the foods I've fed to the other fish, I can actually feed to them as long as I chop it up super small. So in the past, I have fed them really minced up bits of clam, and they down it right up. They're not really particular as far as what goes into that giant mouth of theirs. I don't know if the Wi-Fi is any stronger.
They remind me of aliens a little bit.
All you gotta do is go deep sea diving. You'll find all the alien life you want.
Yeah.
Still got people moving around.
Miss Novak's class, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we're here.
You guys can hear me fine? Miss Novak's class, I'm having a little bit of issue. If you guys want to unmute your mic and ask a question.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. Luke. Ask it.
How big? Wow.
How big do they grow? The paddlefish.
Well, biggest that I have known for them to grow has been about 5 feet. And, you know, our largest one in here is not quite that long yet, but he's definitely getting there. But I'm also trying to catch the smaller ones up a little bit behind him.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to have this class. If they want to come up and ask their question, you guys have the floor.
Is their whole body made of cartilage?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Body made of cartilage.
Is their whole body made of cartilage?
You answer that?
Yeah, the whole body is made of cartilage. So here's one just sitting by. So this whole body, so all their bones, every little piece, including that long nose, that rostrum, all made out of cartilage. So unfortunately, that makes it very hard for it to appear in the fossil record. Lucky that we found anything at all. So that's why they're not sure if these guys have been around even longer than what we know now, because that cartilage itself doesn't fossilize as well as bone. They're around even longer than dinosaurs. It's just kind of a big question mark right now until we find more evidence that says otherwise. But yes, the whole body is made out of cartilage.
Awesome question. And I'm just going to go to Miss Venegas' class. If you guys want to come up and ask your question, and then we can start wrapping things up. Okay. Do you guys want to unmute your mic? I can do that for you, actually.
Is there a way to save the species?
Is there a way to save the species?
I think there's always a chance. There's still lots of them in the Mississippi River. We just have to make sure that we treat that environment with the best care that we can so that they do survive there. We've got tons in the aquarium in here, so we've got lots of places where we can still see them. So of course they're not extinct yet. They're still alive and kicking. And it's good because you guys are learning about them and then can find out what more we can do to help them.
Yeah, and I just want to add on top of that. So a lot of what we do here at aquariums, and actually aquariums around the world, is always try and find ways to sustain the populations that we have here. And then that allows us to study them a bit more in depth. But as far as like my interest goes, is that what attracted me to aquarium was knowing the fact that if we figured out how to raise these animals at our facilities themselves, then maybe we'll be able to, much like zoos reintroduce some animals into the wild if possible, that there's the potential that we may be able to either reintroduce animals that we breed at our facilities or elsewhere and reintroduce them to the wild, or if there are certain institutions that acquire animals from the wild, that if they can raise them themselves, they actually don't have to go out and get them. And so that's a lot of at least what draws my interest, and what many of us here believe in is that aspect of sustainability and conservation.
Awesome, good question. It's always nice to know how we can help all the species around us that, help make this world a little bit more interesting. So I think we're just actually going to wrap it up there. We're running a bit out of time. So thanks, Sarah, for showing us around today. And I'm just going to unmute all the mics so everyone can show their appreciation and make some noise for the people at Ripley's for letting us come in.
Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all those really great questions. We love to hear from you guys, and we love that you guys. So thank you for sharing your passion with you guys. So.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again for showing us around today. It was awesome to get a behind the scenes look. So thanks to everyone for participating, and we're going to see you guys around next time. Thank you guys again for joining us around today. It was awesome.
Perfect. Look at that little guy.
Awesome. It was so cool to see these guys, Sarah and friend.
Yeah.
So I didn't catch your name there.
So it's Sarah and Eric.
Eric, awesome.
Eric actually takes care of this entire tank.
Oh yeah, these are your babies, eh?
Yeah, so I mean, this is one of 3 tanks I actually take care of. So here I take care of the Great Lakes, and then I take care of a green anemones tank and a lumpfish tank. But prior to actually taking these tanks, I was in charge of